What if I told you that a simple writing technique discovered 100 years ago reveals one of the deepest truths about human consciousness? Ernest Hemingway didn't just write stories, he accidentally discovered a fundamental principle about how meaning works in human experience. And once you understand this principle, you'll see it everywhere. In your relationships, your conversations, even in how your own mind works. Today, we're exploring what philosophers call the paradox of expression. The idea that the most important things in life can't be said directly. They can only be felt, implied, and discovered. This isn't just about literature. This is about why some conversations change your life while others are instantly forgotten. It's about why certain moments feel profound while others feel empty. It's about understanding the hidden architecture of human meaning. Let's start with a simple question. When someone asks, "How are you?" and you say, "Fine," what's really happening? On the surface, it's a simple exchange of information. But beneath that surface, there might be an entire world of complexity. Maybe you're not fine at all. Maybe you're struggling with something you can't put into words. Maybe fine actually means I'm barely holding it together, but I don't know how to explain it. This is what philosophers call the ineffability problem, the idea that our deepest experiences resist direct description. The things that matter most to us, love, grief, meaning, beauty, seem to slip away the moment we try to capture them in words. Hemingway understood this intuitively. In his book, Men Without Women, he developed what he called the iceberg theory. Like an iceberg, only 10% of the story appears on the surface. The other 90%, the real emotional weight, remains hidden beneath. But here's what makes this philosophical. Hemingway discovered that hiding the meaning doesn't make it disappear. Instead, it makes the meaning more powerful, more personal, more true. This insight isn't new. 2,500 years ago, the Chinese philosopher Lao Tzu wrote, "Those who know do not speak. Those who speak do not know." He wasn't being cryptic for the sake of being cryptic. He was pointing to something fundamental about how truth works. The deepest truths can't be transferred from one person to another like information. They have to be discovered personally. Think about it. Has anyone ever convinced you to fall in love by explaining why you should? Has anyone ever made you understand beauty by describing it in detail? Has anyone ever made you feel hope by listing logical reasons why you should be hopeful? Of course not. These experiences happen when something resonates with what you already know deep down but haven't yet recognized. Hemingway's genius was applying this ancient wisdom to storytelling. Instead of telling readers what to feel, he created conditions where readers could discover those feelings for themselves. Here's a simple example of how this works. Imagine reading these two sentences. John was devastated by his divorce and felt completely alone in the world. Aika. Versus, John ordered another whiskey and stared at his wedding ring. The first sentence gives you information. The second sentence gives you an experience. When you read about John staring at his wedding ring, something happens in your mind. You don't just understand his pain, you feel it. You recognize it. This is what philosophers call phenomenological recognition, the moment when external description connects with internal experience. It's not that you're learning something new about John, it's that you're recognizing something you already know about loneliness, about loss, about the way pain manifests in small, quiet moments. Hemingway understood that the best writing doesn't create new emotions. It helps you recognize emotions you've already experienced, but maybe never fully acknowledged. But there's something even deeper happening here, something that connects to fundamental questions about consciousness itself. When you read about John staring at his wedding ring, your mind automatically fills in the missing pieces. You imagine his thoughts, his feelings, his history. You become, in essence, a co-creator of the story. This reveals something profound about how consciousness works. We don't just passively receive information from the world. We actively construct meaning from fragments, patterns, and implications. Your brain is constantly doing this, taking incomplete information and creating coherent narratives. When someone raises their eyebrows while talking to you, you don't just see raised eyebrows. You interpret skepticism, surprise, or questioning. When someone pauses mid-sentence, you don't just hear silence, you sense hesitation, consideration, or uncertainty. Hemingway's iceberg theory works because it mirrors this natural function of consciousness. By giving us incomplete information, he activates our meaning-making apparatus. We don't just read his stories, we participate in creating them. This leads to another philosophical insight. Meaning isn't something that exists independently in the world. It's something we create together through interaction. Think about inside jokes with your closest friends. Why are they funny? Not because the words themselves are inherently humorous, but because they reference shared experiences, memories, moments that exist in the space between you. Hemingway's stories work the same way. They create a space where reader and writer collaborate in constructing meaning. The author provides the surface elements, the whiskey, the wedding ring, the pause in conversation. The reader provides the emotional recognition, the understanding of what these elements represent. This is why different people can read the same Hemingway story and have completely different experiences. The meaning isn't fixed in the text, it emerges from the interaction between text and reader. The men in Hemingway's stories rarely talk about their feelings directly. Instead, their emotions are revealed through what philosophers call embodied experience, the way feelings manifest in physical actions, gestures, and choices. A character doesn't say, "I'm afraid of intimacy." Instead, he changes the subject when the conversation gets too personal. He doesn't say, "I'm haunted by the war." Instead, he can't sleep, drinks too much, or startles at sudden noises. This reflects a deep truth about human psychology. We often don't know what we're feeling until we see how we're acting. Our emotions aren't always available to our conscious minds. They live in our bodies, our habits, our automatic responses. Hemingway was doing what we might call emotional archaeology, uncovering the hidden feelings that shape behavior. He understood that the most honest way to portray human emotion is to show its effects rather than its supposed causes. Men Without Women explores a particular kind of emotional landscape, the way men, especially in Hemingway's era, were taught to hide their vulnerability. But the philosophical insight here goes beyond gender. The book reveals something universal about what happens when emotional expression is suppressed. The feelings don't disappear, they go underground. They express themselves indirectly through behavior, through what people choose to focus on, through what they avoid. This creates what philosophers call shadow meaning, significance that exists precisely because it's not directly acknowledged. The more powerfully something is suppressed, the more powerfully it influences everything else. Think about conversations where someone is clearly upset but insists they're fine. The word fine becomes heavy with all the meaning it's trying to contain. The denial of emotion becomes, paradoxically, the strongest expression of emotion. Hemingway showed that these shadow meanings often carry more truth than direct statements. The things we can't or won't say directly often reveal more about our inner lives than the things we say explicitly. We live in an era of unprecedented self-expression. Social media encourages us to externalize our thoughts and feelings constantly. We document our meals, our moods, our opinions on everything. But has all this expression made us better at communicating what really matters? Hemingway's philosophy suggests the opposite might be true. The more we try to capture and express our experiences directly, the more we might be losing touch with their deeper significance. Consider how people talk about meaningful experiences on social media versus how they talk about them in private, intimate conversations. The public version is often explicit, cheerful, designed for consumption. The private version is more hesitant, more complex, full of pauses and half-statements and things that remain unsaid. Which version feels more true to you? So how do we apply this philosophical insight to our actual lives? First, practice what we might call generous interpretation. When someone says something that seems simple on the surface, consider what might be beneath it. When a friend says they're busy, they might be communicating something about overwhelm, priorities, or their need for space without saying it directly. Second, embrace what philosophers call comfortable silence. Not every thought needs to be expressed. Not every feeling needs to be explained. Sometimes the most profound communication happens in the spaces between words. Third, trust the intelligence of others. Just as Hemingway trusted his readers to understand subtext, you can trust the people in your life to pick up on implications, to read between the lines, to understand what you're really communicating even when you're not saying it directly. Here's what's philosophically radical about Hemingway's approach. He chose incompleteness as a virtue rather than a flaw. In a world that demands explanations, justifications, and explicit statements, he argued for the power of leaving things unsaid. This requires a particular kind of courage, the courage to trust that meaning will emerge naturally rather than forcing it into existence through explanation. Think about the most meaningful moments in your own life. Were they the times when everything was clearly explained and understood? Or were they the times when something important was present but couldn't quite be captured in words? Most of us, if we're honest, will recognize that our deepest experiences have a quality of mystery to them. They resist simple explanation. They exist in the realm of feeling and intuition rather than logic and description. Hemingway's philosophy suggests that this mystery isn't a bug in human experience. It's a feature. It's what makes life rich, personal, and continually surprising. Let's return to the iceberg metaphor, but think about it in terms of your own consciousness. How much of what you think and feel in any given moment are you consciously aware of? Modern neuroscience suggests that consciousness is itself like an iceberg. The thoughts and feelings you're aware of represent only a tiny fraction of the mental activity happening beneath the surface. Your unconscious mind is constantly processing information, making connections, and influencing your behavior in ways you're not directly aware of. Hemingway's iceberg theory mirrors this structure of consciousness. Just as your unconscious mind influences your conscious thoughts without being directly accessible, the hidden meaning in Hemingway's stories influences your reading experience without being explicitly stated. This suggests that the most authentic way to communicate human experience might be to mirror the way consciousness actually works, with most of the significant activity happening beneath the surface of direct awareness. What makes Hemingway's work timeless is that he tapped into something universal about how humans communicate meaning. Across all cultures, in all historical periods, the most important communications often happen indirectly. A parent's love isn't typically expressed through explicit statements, but through countless small actions, gestures, and choices. Friendship develops not through declarations, but through shared experiences and mutual understanding that grows over time. Even anger and conflict often communicate more through what's not said than through what is said directly. Hemingway understood that this indirect communication isn't a limitation of human language. It's actually its greatest strength. It allows for meaning that is personal, discoverable, and emotionally resonant in ways that direct statement can never match. Ultimately, Hemingway's iceberg theory is based on a philosophical principle of trust. Trust that readers are intelligent enough to understand implications. Trust that human experience has enough common ground that one person's carefully observed truth will resonate with others. Trust that meaning will emerge naturally when the right conditions are created. This trust extends beyond literature into life itself. When we communicate with others, we're constantly making choices about how explicit to be, how much to explain, how much to leave for the other person to discover. The people we feel closest to are often those with whom we can communicate with minimal explanation, where a glance, a gesture, or a few words can convey volumes of meaning. This isn't because we're being lazy or unclear. It's because we've developed a shared language of implication. As we conclude, I want you to think about your own iceberg moments. Think about times when someone communicated something profound to you without saying it directly. Think about conversations where the real meaning lived in the pauses, the implications, the things that remained beautifully unsaid. Think about your own deepest experiences. How much of what matters most to you could be captured in direct explanation? How much exists in that 90% beneath the surface, in feeling, in intuition, in recognition rather than description? Hemingway's philosophy suggests that this hidden depth isn't a problem to be solved, but a mystery to be honored. The fact that our most meaningful experiences resist simple explanation isn't a limitation. It's what makes them meaningful in the first place. In our age of constant expression and explanation, there's something revolutionary about embracing the power of what remains unsaid. There's wisdom in trusting others to understand what we're really communicating. There's beauty in leaving space for discovery rather than filling every silence with words. The iceberg theory reminds us that the most profound truths often exist not in what we say, but in what we make it possible for others to feel and discover for themselves. What are the things in your life that exist beneath the surface? What meanings are you creating through implication rather than explanation? And what might become possible if you trusted the power of what you choose not to say? Sometimes, the deepest philosophy is found not in complex theories, but in simple recognition that the most important things in human experience live in the 90% beneath the surface, in the realm of feeling and recognition and shared understanding that exists beyond words. And that, perhaps, is where the real conversation begins.